first one I guess I should just dive into is Zero Dark 30. Now, if you have followed us on Twitter, you kind of got a general idea of what I felt, at least initially, after the movie. Now, this was the third movie of the day, so I don't know if maybe that played a little bit of a factor in what I thought. I was also seeing it like at 10 o'clock at night, so it had been a pretty long day up until then. But obviously, people, critics enjoying the film. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed many aspects of it, and I think sort of since I've allowed time to go by, I've sort of garnered more of an appreciation for the movie. Because my initial reaction was kind of like, wow, that's really not a movie that the general public will sit through. Like, I think the hook, like the marketing for the movie has been brilliant. Like, it just seems like a very fast pace, like this after this after this after this. Haha, we got Bin Laden. Like, it just seems like that what was promised to people, and that's not the case in this movie. It is a slow burn movie at times, and I can't necessarily blame the writers and obviously Catherine Bigelow for that, because obviously it's a story that takes place over 10 years' time. So obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that they're going to need to flesh out if they're going to get as many details as possible, or whatever you want to imagine is details or not, whether that's what really happened, obviously, which is a bit of the controversy over the movie. But
it's fiction. Let's just enjoy
fictional.
That aspect of it.
It is fictional, and it's just going to be obviously one of those things that not everybody is going to agree that that's really what happened. So if you sort of look at it just from a creative standpoint, just sort of as a storytelling standpoint, it is a very gripping movie. Whether or not it does a good job at retelling history, I think only time will tell.
Yeah.
I think we're still a little too close to the events of the movie, because when the movie was announced, I thought, wow, they're really turning that thing around pretty quick. Because basically the main focus of the movie was like getting Bin Laden, not necessarily the path there. So obviously we had already been sort of privy to a lot of the things that had happened up until that point.
Yeah.
So I was kind of trying to figure out how much of that they would try to put in the movie, and they put a lot of that in the movie. I felt like it was a little hard to follow at times, just because of sort of maybe not knowing a lot of one thing and then not a lot of another. I just thought it was a little strange, and I just got the general sense of the people that I was sitting with, they just weren't enjoying the movie. It was a little slow up until maybe like the last 45 minutes to an hour. So anyways, with that, it's a lot less flashy than Bigelow's other movies, especially like The Hurt Locker. There's no sort of slow motion, like, glory, shot like, aha, we got Bin Laden, bam, right in the head. Like, honestly, what's so refreshing about that whole raid aspect is it takes probably about 30 minutes to 35 minutes time to sort of get in and get out. And it's not shown in like this sort of action piece, like over the top kind of thing. It's very fluid, very well driven by sort of the knowledge of a person. The person knows what's going to happen, and it's not, and what's really nice is that they don't sort of focus like, oh, there's Bin Laden, here's the bullet going slowly through his head, and then like all this stuff. Like, it's just literally like the corner of the screen is where the action happens, and it's done. Yeah, and you're like, wow, that's clinical.
Well, and it's really interesting because we know Catherine Bigelow can do action.
Sure.
Like, that's been one of the cornerstones of her career as a director.
Right. And what another interesting aspect of the movie is that a lot of times a male is the focus of her movie. It's like, especially like Hurt Locker, you've got basically three guys in that movie who, she jumps around with. Whereas in this movie, obviously there is a female protagonist, and there's actually a couple of them in the movie, which is very interesting for her to do. There's been a lot of movies. I can't think of the name of the movie, but it was the Jamie Lee Curtis movie she did.
Oh, Blue Steel.
Yeah, Blue Steel. Like, that was sort of the only other sort of main female character that strong female character in one of her movies that I could think of. So, so with that, I mean, I know I'm kind of dragging it along here because I don't necessarily want to spoil the movie, although it seems obvious that you should know what happens.
It's a little bit like spoiling Lincoln. It's
Right.
like you know what happened. Maybe you don't know how Spielberg chose to portray it, but you know what happened.
Well, okay, so what basically, if I were to boil it down, it feels very almost like a retelling, sort of like a documentary, sort of like a reenactment. That's the word I'm trying to think of. It's a very much a very well done reenactment, and that's not to put it down any. I mean, that's meant to be a compliment. But of course, the movie itself does appear to sort of try to be like a butt slap to America, like, haha, we did it, and this is how like this one person really made it happen. But it does seem sort of like here are the facts, but if you sort of watch the actors on screen and you sort of watch what they're doing and sort of follow what they're doing and sort of the chemistry between characters, you really see that it's a peeling back of the onion, and there's clearly sort of like a message there. And it's at times not necessarily a good one, because a lot of people are on one side of the thing saying like, oh, it's glorifying torture, and then there's the other side that says, oh, it's there's no way it is. I don't see how it glorifies torture at all. I feel like it's just trying to say this is what people did to get this information, and it seems very obvious by the end of the movie. They're not very happy that they had to do that stuff to get this information, but it was important to get the job done. And I think that's sort of the aspect of the story that a lot of people are trying to politicize, and it's not that at all. So I the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. I was just sort of blown away by Hurt Locker. I was very thrilled that it got sort of the accolades that it got. So to try to compare the two movies, I think is kind of like bad on my part. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it, and I do think it's something that I will revisit and sort of retune my thinking on it. I just think, again, it's just a little too close for comfort. I will say that the movie does open with this very interesting montage of audio clips from 9/11, just on a black screen. So if that doesn't suck you into sort of the point of the movie, you're probably not going to be on board for it. So, but again, it's sort of I think what fills the seats is probably that last hour and a half of the movie where it really sort of takes off. But the stuff before that, I would say, is a little maybe not for everybody.
Yeah.
In terms of focusing on what's going on. So,
A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.